That was a disaster. It's time to switch out for my summer drink, which is, of course, Cathead Vodka, delicious. In case they want to ever sponsor us, I love your product. All right. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Get Down. I am John Stanton, your host and editor of the Gambit. This week in the news, there's been lots of stuff going on. You may have missed, though, last week, at the end of last week, Mayor Cantrell put out this weird press release after the city council passed a new ordinance requiring her to basically keep track of her travel expenses, which is wild that she's not really keeping that good a track of it. But she kind of put out a statement that seems to suggest that she's not going to follow the law, which is becoming a bit of a pattern for Mayor Cantrell. So the saga of Travelgate will continue, I think, until the foreseeable future. And unless you were living under a rock this past week, you I'm sure know about the gang of Nazis that decided to come to New Orleans for some inexplicable reason. A group of, it looked like about 4 or 5 chuckle-headed Nazis came down from Amite on last Sunday and were carousing around the French Quarter and on Frenchman Street, basically causing problems, wearing Nazi shirts. They were covered in Nazi tattoos. When they were confronted about it, they started yelling white power and throwing Nazi Z Heils, a la Elon Musk, everywhere they went. Pretty much a bunch of idiots acting like, clowns. Of course, they ran away very quickly when someone actually came at them and started talking smack back at them, which is typical for these guys. They're big, tough alpha dudes until, actually somebody pushes back and then they suddenly are punks. But the interesting thing is that one of them, the main guy who was yelling a lot of white power and all kinds of nasty slurs, he got fired by his tattoo shop, which is called Stink Eye Tattoo, which is definitely a place you certainly want to go get tattooed because of a name like that. It's got to be totally clean and have good artists. But turns out that Stink Eye Tattoo had bigger problems because they were all there with him while he was wearing an SS t-shirt, and he's got covered in Nazi tattoos and gives Nazi tattoos, which that makes you a Nazi tattoo shop. And so by Tuesday of this week, the shop had taken down its social media. Everybody else at the shop had taken down their social media, and they're now listing themselves as permanently closed. So I guess this is one of those rare examples of the internet being all up in everybody's business turned out to be a good thing. We'll be right back. And we're back, and I'm joined by Michaela Beckler, the editor-in-chief of The Pearl, which is our fashion and lifestyle magazine. I know you got a big issue that's coming out this month. What y'all got in there?
So our May issue is our biggest issue yet. It's 40 pages. It's a whopper. We covered weddings and events, so everything from how to plan the perfect party at home from an expert wedding planner who does a lot of celebrity weddings here, which is fun. Oh. We did a whole tablescape shoot featuring local creatives who made their dream table, which was really fun. So you can, if you're having a dinner party at home or planning a wedding, you can take some inspo from that.
So not just like a bowl of fake fruit.
No. I mean, very interesting. We had a candle maker who incorporated her candles throughout with some fun fruit. We had a florist who found creative ways to use flowers on the table too. So
that's cool.
They're cool. They're very visually appealing. So a lot of inspo there. And then of course it's Mother's Day. So Mother's Day gifts. We had a really great section from a local shop owner, Martha Claire Breland. She owns Judy at the Rink, if you've ever been. And she wrote this whole story for us about motherhood. She just had her 4th daughter and kind of reflecting on what it means to be a mother in these days. So
it's kind of a challenging time to be a mother, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
What is your go-to gift for your mom?
My mom is hard to shop for. She's one of those people who gets a gift and if she doesn't like it, she doesn't hide it. So I'd have to be very confident. If it involves coffee, wine, or puzzles, it's usually a good gift. But sometimes I'll just do flowers because, I feel like flowers, if you're not getting flowers all the time, then it's special.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Mine are, I have an Irish Catholic mother, so it's rosaries or booze.
Oh, yeah. Should have mentioned anything Catholic.
Yeah. She loves wine, so, mostly it's just wine these days, but sometimes rosaries, still.
Yeah.
Anything else in the issue that people should be looking out for?
Look out for 2 really cute shop dogs.
Ooh.
Very cute shop dogs.
Very nice.
And also a whole section about NOMA's newest event. They're getting rid of the old museum gala format, and they're doing a supper club series throughout the year. So 3 kind of smaller cocktail style events celebrating their new exhibition. So really cool.
Pulling us out of the 1950s. That's awesome. Thank you very much for joining us. And make sure to pick up The Pearl. It's at newsstands everywhere and online.
Thank you.
This week, our feature story in the issue and online is a story by Kaylee Pochet that I helped her out a little bit with about Mayor Cantrell's job. We were able to get a hold of her calendar for 2024, and we went through the entire year. And it's one of those things where most people understand what the mayor kind of does conceptually, but really, we don't really get a good idea of what a day-to-day kind of a situation is for a mayor when they work. And it turns out that based on this, it looks like the mayor spends most of her time, at least in 2024, doing largely ceremonial duties and functions, going to ribbon cuttings, going to visit schools, meeting with dignitaries, that sort of thing, all of which, to be clear, are part of the job of being mayor. But it's in stark contrast to what she was scheduled to do on sort of, your more core functions of government, like making sure that roads are getting fixed, that the sewer water board is working correctly, that, people are safe, those sort of things. For instance, in 2024, she spent 215 hours and 5 minutes on core government functions, according to the data that we pulled from her calendar. That compares to 517 hours and 35 minutes of doing things that had to do with events, going to meet celebrities, going to ribbon cuttings, announcing new parks, those sort of things. And again, both those are part of the job of being mayor. But it stands in stark contrast to what a lot of other people have done. For instance, former Mayor Mitch Landrieu's administration, during that time, he would have between 10 to 12 hours of things scheduled every single day of the week that he would be doing. So basically, he'd get up and he would start working, and he would work until the evening. And he was a bit of a workaholic. He would get up at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning. No one thinks that should be done. That's a crazy-ass time to get up in the morning, quite frankly. But compare that to the mayor, who on average is scheduled to work, based on the calendar, again, an average of about 16 hours a week, which is a pretty good job if you can get it. Because your average person is working at least 40 hours a week in New Orleans. And then, you look at the thing that she did the most, which was actually travel. This has been a big issue, obviously, with Mayor Cantrell that everybody knows, but this really puts it into perspective. She traveled to 16 different destinations in 2024, for a total of 62 and a half days being outside of the city of New Orleans. She went all over the world. She went to Rio. She went to Montreal. She went to Qatar, all over the United States. But, what she was not doing when she was there was doing anything that has to do with us. And it really kind of highlights, the story shows that what's happening right now is the city is essentially being run by her staff, by Gilbert Montano, her CAO, by the Office of Law, by her Chief of Staff, Cliff. These are the people that seem to actually be running the city, which on one level may be okay, but then we have situations like the recent fight over the school board funding, where she was on an airplane coming back from Rio de Janeiro the day that they announced this deal that her administration had cut. Turns out she had no idea that they had cut this deal, and didn't know they'd cut the deal until sometime after she had signed it, and is now trying to back out of paying the school board $20 million. And so it does raise some serious questions about kind of who is running the show in New Orleans. There's a lot of information, a lot of details. We did a really big deep dive. You can actually also go check out her full calendar. We have that online. So be sure to check out the story at bestofneworleans.com and in the issue. We'll be right back. And I'm joined by Jake Clapp, music writer extraordinaire for Gambit. And this week, Jake has written a great story. It's actually on the cover of our issue about Boyfriend and a new record she's got coming out. Now, I think all of us kind of know Boyfriend from the hair curler situation or like the bodysuit and like kind of the irreverent lyrics and sort of audacious style that she brings to music. But this is a wildly different situation, right, Jake?
Yeah, so this is a great album and like a very ambitious project from Boyfriend. So Boyfriend's music forever has always kind of thrown a middle finger up at patriarchy, and it's it's really bass heavy pop and just really danceable, but always in there is messages about gender stereotypes and sexism and really challenging a lot of patriarchy. And so this new album that she has coming out called In the Garden really gets at the foundational root of patriarchy, which is the story of Adam and Eve. And patriarchy says that the world's problems started with Eve being disobedient. So Boyfriend's album flips that on its head and takes it from Eve's perspective and talks about what is curiosity as a virtue. But the album has Big Frida as God. Jake Shears of Scissor Sisters is Adam. Billy Porter is the narrator. And Peaches is the serpent in the garden. And it's this really great sweeping pop record it's musical. It is a musical, but it's also a lot of these tracks stand alone. You can like really put them into a playlist, and then they're like just really great songs. But it takes you through the story of the Garden of Eden. But it's about Eve questioning existence, saying, I was made this way to question, why am I going to be punished for that? But there's just it's very entertaining. It's very queer. It's very irreverent. And it's just a fantastic record.
Now,
So
you talked to Boyfriend about the record, right?
Yes.
And what did she say about like the process of doing this?
Yeah. So it is a project that she has been wanting to do for a decade. It's something that she has wanted to tackle. And I think, though, it took a while to build up to the vision that she had in her head. She's grown a lot over the years as a songwriter. She recently wrote a song for Irma Thomas, which appeared on the record that Irma did with Galactic. But she's written for Charlie XCX. She has written with the Revivalists and with a lot of people. So I think that following a couple years ago, she released Sugar and Spice, her first full-length album, and she started setting in motion, like really trying to get this storytelling album together that she has. So.
Well, that's awesome because I really think that she's one of the more interesting kind of weirdos of the New Orleans music scene, and it's nice to see that she's getting her flowers like on the national, international stage. I know that she's really kind of blown up over the last few years, and that she's being able to use that to like kind of do this project that sounds super fascinating.
Oh yeah, and it's like I said, it is a great listen. It will make you think. As white guys, like maybe we should like check it out, listen to it.
Always seems reasonable.
Yeah. So definitely it's out May 9th. She also has a live music film coming out in the fall, but no date for that has been set yet. So, but yeah, out May 9th. Should be good.
We'll go check out the record when it comes out. And thank you very much, Jake. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. And we're back with Will Coviello, our arts and entertainment editor. Will, Jazzfest is over, so the festival season is kind of run its course a little bit.
Bayou Boogaloo, got a little gap.
We do, yeah. Bayou Boogaloo is, I guess, like the last gasp. But what do we got going on this week and this weekend coming up here?
Well, we do have a festival. We're going to get the inaugural Toledano Street Comedy Festival. That's obviously at a sports drink, the Tiny But Mighty Comedy Club right off of Magazine there. They've got a really good lineup. They've brought in everybody from the All Fantasy Everything podcast. So David Gabori, Sean Jordan, Ian Carmel, and then a lot of the people who are regulars on their podcast are going to headline. So there'll be Dulcie Sloan, Langston Kerman, and some other folks. They got a dozen headliners coming in. They got about 50 local comics. And the way they're doing this is they're Sports Drinks founder Andrew Stevens wants to run this like a music festival. So it's like, get your day pass and then just run between stages. So instead of doing like ticketed events at different venues, it's like you get a day pass or a weekend pass, and they're doing comedy shows at Sports Drink, but also at Bon Me Boys, Daily Beat, and a gym, F45, which I mean, it's funny, but like the fact that place is so large means they can put 200 or 175 people in a show and thus book a whole bunch of big headliners. So Sean Patton's also coming in and some other comics. So yeah, it's a really good lineup. They're kind of running it their own way. You can get a day pass or whatever and kind of see different shows at different venues on Friday and Saturday. So it's looking pretty good. And that's May 8th through 11th. Mostly at a Sports Drink 2 days, and then all those venues 2 days.
And what else we got going
on? We got a couple of plays going on. Rivertown is opening Something Rotten, which is kind of a Broadway hit. It's a kind of a musical farce about these two brothers who are running a failing theater in Elizabethan England because they're competing with Shakespeare. So like he keeps scooping them, and they turn to Nostradamus's, not as talented nephew to see if they can steal a play from Shakespeare, and let's just say they don't see quite the right play. Anyway, it's a pretty great farce of just, people who really should not be competing with the best guy in the business. And then Crescent City Stage is also opening a show. They have this play, Tiny Beautiful Things, which is about, kind of a moment in time when advice writing exploded on the internet. And, you suddenly had advice writing that went from the kind of genteel or overly polite Dear Abby to people asking real questions. And in this case, you have somebody who's anonymously answering them, but she's kind of led a very real life. She's levels with people like, okay, I've done heroin. Okay, I had a problem with heroin. And, this kind of leads you into the darker stuff that people suffer with alone, but which they had very frank conversations about on the internet. So it's actually a really, really good play. And people who are familiar with it may know how it turns out. It's based on a pretty well-known book. But that's a really interesting play coming up at Crescent City Stage up at Loyola.
And then finally, of course, we have...
And then Humpfest, another festival.
Which every Gambit reader, of course, is obviously very well...
Everyone's a fan of Humpfest.
Yeah.
It's an amateur porn fest about, it's kind of an inclusive thing. There's all kinds of sexes, sexualities, kinks, body types, and everything. Dan Savage, the advice columnist from The Stranger, started this 20 years ago, basically asking a simple question, is if people... made their own, porn, their own kind of fantasies, what would they want to see? And then he invited them to do that. And 20 years later, we now have a lot more people sharing with him and all of us what they want to see on film. Awesome. So that's at the Broad for Friday and Saturday next week.
Great. All right, well, there's a whole lot of stuff to do and a bunch of humping to do, too. So thank you very much. We'll appreciate you.
All right, sure.
Finally, and another thing. This week I want to talk about Jazzfest, which recently just wrapped up, and some serious problems at Jazzfest that they need to address immediately. Over the last 2 years, they have been changing the way that they treat the disabled. For many, many years, Jazzfest was in a lot of ways one of the gold standards of how a festival should provide space and access for people with disabilities. But over the last 2 years, that has changed dramatically. Starting last year, they began questioning the disabled about why they needed access and essentially forcing them to justify their need for a bracelet to get into the viewing areas and other parts and to get other sort of services that are provided to the disabled. This year it got worse, where they were essentially making decisions on who was and who was not qualified to be able to be considered disabled enough to get into these areas. They've also removed a lot of the chairs out of the viewing areas. And what they seem to be kind of doing is essentially saying that if you're in a wheelchair, that makes you disabled, but otherwise you're on your own. And if anybody, as anybody who has gone to the festival stage, particularly for something like, oh, say, Little Wayne, can tell you, that is like a shark pit. Like, it is impossible to move around. And if you are disabled, you are SOL. You can't get in and out. You can't move. And it's hard enough if you are a totally able-bodied person to be able to get around. But if you have any kind of a disability, it's very, very difficult. And while the festival may be within the strict limits of the Americans with Disabilities Act language, they are certainly not living up to its what is intended to do. And they need to really do better. They need to treat disabled people with respect and dignity, and they need to stop asking people these kind of intrusive questions that force them to justify why it is that they feel they need access to these spaces that are required by law to be there for them. Anyway, that's it for this week. Be sure to check out bestofneworleans.com for all of our latest news and entertainment, and check out the issue on newsstands today. Thank you very much.